There's so many great Irish artists, and even I suppose fairly locally, you have the likes of the Divine Comedy. You have the Basement from Oma, another great and very underrated, probably unheard of band as well. But obviously, when it comes to Irish songwriters and singers, I would have to go Christy Moore. Like, he's a complete legend. And I think a song that's very, he's a number of songs. Lingo Politico's a great one, and it would have described my attitude to politicians, and definitely people who describe themselves as politicians. Only Our Rivers Run Free being another one that he would have sang a great cover of. But I think Oblivious, if anyone gets a chance to check it out, it describes perfectly, the gravy train that's ongoing in government, and it could apply, unfortunately, nearly anywhere in the world. So yeah, Oblivious by Christy Moore, happy to go with that as a selection.
Jumping into my sixth song, you go from the indie kind of vibe in some ways of De Laurentiis, but geographically not going too far, because it would be very remiss of me as a Mullingar man not to choose a Joe Dolan classic, because Joe Dolan in the 90s was someone that going to the Greville Arms Hotel on a Saturday with my granny for a tea and bringing her out. Joe Dolan was a man that we often saw around town, despite that he lived up in Foxrock in Dublin. We saw him around the place quite a lot, and a lot of his family. But Westmeath Bachelor is and always will be one of the great songs that this country has ever produced, and not just because of the fact that it is written by an icon of a man who was the first Western artist ever playing the old Soviet Union at the time, but Joe Dolan just brought something to music for his generation that I don't think will ever be really emulated ever again, whether it's the white suit or whether it's the tone of the voice, that sort of almost like gravelly sound that he could produce, but at the same time hitting these extraordinary notes. It's just something that I don't think I'll ever forget. And his passing courses, I can remember exactly where I was when I heard that he passed away as well. But Westmeath Bachelor just has that speed and that tone, and that lyrically it's just so Irish and so funny. Because the Westmeath Bachelor Festival as such is quite a famous thing down here, it just sits so well with the tradition of Ireland and of the country. Lyrically as well, it just has everything that you want in it, as like a fun song, right down from I am a Westmeath Bachelor at the age of 63, I don't intend to marry or to raise a family. The lyrics are just, they're quirky, they're funny, they're also kind of taking the mickey a little bit as well, but it was everything that was amazing about Joe as a singer, and he portrayed everything great about the county he came from and the town he came from in that song. And even though he had all his other hits, from Make Me an Island right up to even some of the more quirky ones he would have done with like Dustin the Turkey in the 90s and that kind of thing, Westmeath Bachelor still, anywhere you go in the world you can play that song and people automatically get drawn towards it, because they just know it's Irish, they just know it's Joe Dolan, and they just know it's something iconic. So Westmeath Bachelor is my own hometown song, my own home county song, is definitely up there on the list. So there is no show like a Joe show, as they say.
Moving on now, and it's one of Ireland's premier satirists is Blind Boy Boat Club and his group, the Rubber Bandits. The tune, of course, is Horse Outside, and again, it's a very witty song, and it's a very, but the lyrics are deceptively clever. And again, it's a song that, if you play it in a crowded space, it's going to get good reaction. It's been out for about 4 or 5 years. The first time I remember hearing about it was because it was getting a lot of attention on YouTube. So it started off on an RTE sketch show. And one of the sketches was this song, Horse Outside, and it was suddenly getting huge amount of views on YouTube. Now this was about 10 or 11 years ago, so when I say a huge amount of views, it was actually newsworthy that it got 5 million views. And if you think nowadays YouTube videos get about 5 million views in 10 minutes, maybe it wasn't such a, it shows how things have changed in the interim. But this tune was getting 5 million views, and when I heard it, it was just, I was in England, and it was extremely funny hearing it for the first time. I'd never heard of anything like that. I hadn't heard of Rubber Bandits. The bags over their heads was a really good, I was going to say gimmick. Clearly they've kept with it, because Blind Boy still uses the bag over his head. but it gave them a very refreshing new look with the Super Value as well, the Super Value bags, and I think one of them was Spar maybe, but it immediately also give them universality because they're anonymous, but also immediately give them locality because Super Value and Spar are very much where you go after school to get your sweets and stuff. Again, this is one of these songs that if you play it in a crowded space, it's going to be a big hit. It's going to be a floor filler. So I'm going to suggest this is going to be one of the wedding classics of the next 20 to 30 years after the meal has been done, after the tables have been moved away. The dance floor is now belongs to the DJ. The drinks are spilling everywhere. That's when you drop in. It was at Amanda's wedding. So it fits immediately into weddings. So that's where you should be listening to. The Rubber Bandits now have gone on to become one of the most respected satirists and podcasters and just general artistic presences now, not just in Ireland but across Europe and the world. And I have to admit, I did not see this coming. From what it looked like was just a novelty song about horses from the perspective of traveller community, the Limerick community then. I did not expect to see their longevity last this long, but fair play to them, they're doing very well.
Just talking there about the Irish singers, to me the best singer ever was Luke Kelly.
Oh,
And I always loved his songs.
yeah.
The 19 Visiting song, Town I Love So Well, what do you call the one he done for Phil Coulter? Oh, Score Not His Simplicity. Beautiful song, beautiful.
Larry Cunningham as well was another great artist.
Yeah.
Sadly no longer with us.
Well, a lot of the younger ones now in the Irish country scene is big names now. The like of Mike Denver, Derek Ryan,
Lisa McHugh,
Lisa McHugh,
Jerry Guthrie.
Leona Hagen. You have a lot of them names now that's really big, like. And brilliant singers too, brilliant singers. Well, they're the ones that's keeping everything going now with the country music, like, and unfortunately with the COVID thing they've had a big lull, which is, it's their livelihood at the end of the day, and it's been a sad time for them too.
Of course, yeah.
Music's enjoyable. We love our music. Should be choir,
Music is good
gospel,
for the mind as
country,
well as the
western.
heart.
Yes,
Yeah.
Indeed.
Especially now during COVID.
Especially
That's
now.
correct.
You can always turn to music no matter what.
Do you get the same enjoyment out of playing and listening, or do you prefer playing or prefer listening, or
I prefer singing it.
singing? Yeah.
But music is a thing. Music is whether to be singing or listening.
Yeah.
You can do it on your own. You can do it with 10 people, 50 people, 100 people. Massive group. There's no end.
No matter how you do it, it's
Start.
enjoyable.
Indeed.
It's like everything else, you have to enjoy doing it to really enjoy what you're doing. So I enjoy singing.
So I think you cannot talk about Irish music without talking about Riverdance.
Definitely.
A spectacular show that I've seen 3 times, and I took Victoria to see it.
Yes.
It was in February, just before the whole COVID thing happened in March, and it was spectacular. Well, I'll let you talk about it a little bit.
Yes, so Connor actually surprised me with tickets to go and see Riverdance because I love all things, well, obviously I love all things music, but I also love all things dance. So it's quite a good combination.
It is.
And again, actually, I remember studying Riverdance when I did GCSE or A-level music. I can't remember which one, and I loved it. Like, I was really obsessed with it. So this was such an amazing treat then to actually go and see it done live, because I'd never seen it before, but I knew Connor had. So we went to the SSE Arena in Belfast, and oh my goodness, I was blown away, not only by the dancing but also by the singing, and like the soprano voices were just incredible. The way their voices just glide, and it's so
pure,
smooth.
it's so
yeah,
pure.
it's so
The
beautiful.
orchestration of Riverdance is amazing as well, because they take the Irish traditional band as such and almost electrify it, you know. And I had seen it before in the Gaiety Theatre in Dublin, and it's a much smaller place than the SSE Arena, and obviously you're right up close and you can hear every beat of the shoes, and they obviously have mics on the stage and you can see their feet moving immensely quickly, and it kind of feels like a really upbeat, bigger pub almost because of the instruments used. So when we went to the SSE, I thought, oh, this is about 6 times the size of the theatre. How is this small little Irish traditional band going to carry, or is it just going to sound like they're mic'd and it's just like being blasted and it's really loud, and are you going to see the feet up close? But actually they delivered it so well, and they had this huge big stage, and I think about 60 dancers on stage as well, and the sound was phenomenal. I think they had an electric guitar in there as well to give it,
Yeah.
you know, a little bit of oomph that it needed, and it was, oh, it's spectacular.
It's
you
the
know.
fact as well that there's so many people on the stage at one time doing the exact same thing, but they do not miss a beat. Like, they are literally in perfect time, and even obviously the timing of, because it's tap, you know, the timing of their shoes with the music as well.
Yeah,
No one misses a beat.
No, like their actual hard shoes that they dance in, and the rhythms that are created by the, you know, the tapping that they do is actually part of the song. I'm not sure if it's actually, it must be scored out, but it's amazing that the beat of the dance becomes part of the orchestration. And I think the great thing about Riverdance is it's not just Ireland. Yes, it has a really Irishy feel. They're all in green dresses. There's a lovely kind of Irish folk song that opens it up. But when we went to see it, and each time I've gone to see it, there's always been a slightly different aspect. So they went in and they did like an American hip hop group, and they had, I think it was like Bulgarian dancers as well, and it just shows a load of different style of dance and music that you probably would never listen to unless you went to see this show. And obviously the Irish influence is amazing as well, but Riverdance I absolutely love.
We always joke actually that,
Oh,
you know,
I knew you were going to bring this up.
well, ever since Connor was little, his mum always encouraged him to go to dance lessons. So Connor learned how to dance for
Not
about
very well.
10 years probably, and he learned
But
how to do tap.
Yeah.
Well, they attempted to teach him tap. He didn't really succeed much.
I did
but
tap and modern freestyle, and it was me and like all these girls, because there wasn't many boys. But we did a show, and the dance teacher was Scottish, and she's a lovely girl, Gillian Duggan, and we were doing a show that we did every year, and this year's kind of theme for our group was the Lion King. And I remember being in this horrific cheetah costume that I was not comfortable in at all, being a boy. But anyway, we were doing a song for the Lion King, and it was like all these backward tumbles, and you were a tiger, or a lion, or whatever. And I was woeful, like I was just a ball that would wipe everybody out. But I remember we did it the first night, and obviously the audience are lovely because they're all mums and dads. But the teacher came in, and we were a bit older at this point, maybe 12 or 13. She's like, right, you know, guys, that wasn't great. You know, it definitely needs polish. It definitely needs work. And obviously she was trying to motivate us for the next few nights. And then I sang in these shows as well. But then I think it was the next night we were on, she came in. I was like, oh my goodness, what an improvement. Absolutely amazing. Well done. Everything was so polished. The backward tumbles. The audience loved it. Well done, girls. Really good. I forgot to go on stage. So that is the reason why it was so good. And she'll always remind me of that story. So yeah, I think we both, like, although we're vocalists and we're singers, when we look at dancers, there is so much envy there and jealousy, because I think the talent and the skill that they have is just amazing.
we appreciate how much work goes into it, and you know, we still joke, I love to dance, but I'm nowhere near that standard in the slightest. But you know, Connor would still dance about for fun, and I remember one day put on Riverdance and was dancing up and down the hall pretending to be an Irish dancer.
Yeah, Michael Flatley the second, definitely. But no, we love Riverdance. It's a fantastic Irish